Hello and welcome to season 10 of the Meaning Movement podcast. If you're watching this, if you're hearing my voice, this is the culmination of a ton of work that my team and I have been doing over the past few months to get ready, to get prepared to 4X our production with this podcast. You may have heard me talk about before how important the Meaning Movement is to me personally and how much I've wanted to see it to go to new places, and how I'm kind of just throwing everything at the wall, see what sticks, kind of blowing it up to see what's going to happen. And this episode and this season of the next couple of months of doing 2 episodes per week is a piece of that process for me. So I'm so excited to be here with you, to be doing this together. So welcome to season 10. Ed Latimore is a former heavyweight boxer, a competitive chess player, and best-selling author. Ed is just a force in this world. Search him up on socials. You'll see what I mean. He's prolific. You can't catch this guy. It's amazing. His writing and work focuses on personal development, self-development, realizing your potential, as well as other themes of sobriety, overcoming poverty and addiction, all of these themes that emerge really from his own powerful story. It was so much fun to dig into his story and many of the twists and turns and lessons that he's learned along the way. It was so fun to connect with Ed. He's such an inspiration. I think you're going to enjoy this one as much as I did. This, of course, is the Meaning Movement podcast. It's a show about work worth doing. So if you're looking to level up your life, your income, your career, find more fulfillment, more purpose, more satisfaction in whatever it is that you are pursuing, you're in the right place. Today, with special guest Ed Latimore. Stay with us. This episode, like all episodes of the Meaning Movement podcast, is made possible by the Calling Course. I just want to say, what do I mean by that when I say made possible? It sounds like something that they say in Sesame Street at the beginning or the end. My kids love Sesame Street. What I mean by that is this is a bootstrapped project. I have a course called the Calling Course. It's what I consider the cornerstone or flagship offering of the Meaning Movement. That course is all about work, all about purpose, all about navigating this space of these questions of who am I? What is my life about? Where am I going? What's my contribution going to be? Whether that's right now, in the future, whatever it might be. This podcast has expenses. We pay for those expenses via sales of that Calling Course, also through sponsorships. Share a little bit more about in just a moment. But I wanted to just, instead of talking about the Calling Course here today, wanted to share some words from a recent member of the course. This is Ryan. He sent this over and gave me permission to share this with you. So I'm going to read from him, his thoughts on being a part of the Calling Course. He says, discovering more of who I am and how that connects to the world in work is an overwhelming process. It can be hard to know where to start and easy to feel stuck. The Meaning Movement has been a great acceleration, affirmation, and help in this to me. The Calling Course specifically offered new perspectives and a deeper invitation into who I am and how I can walk the path to becoming my fullest self, connected to others in a mission through work. I love that so much. The combination of material, questions, and direct coaching through Q&A is powerful. I recommend it to anyone doing the hard work of walking deeper into their call. First, thank you so much, Ryan, for those words. They are just so fantastic, and I couldn't have said it better myself, which is why I'm reading them here. If you're listening or watching and you want to know more about the Calling Course, the course I open up for enrollment periodically. I don't have a set schedule at this time, but the best way to know when it's going to be the next enrollment period is going to be opening is for you to be on the email list. You can get on the email list anywhere at themeaningmovement.com. You'll find a bunch of subscribe boxes around the site, or go to the Calling Course, thecallingcourse.com. There is a free mini course. It gives just a small taste of what the Calling Course is all about. If you join that mini course, you'll be sure to be on the list for our next enrollment. So if any of that sounds exciting and enticing to you, make sure to jump on the email list, and then you'll be notified when that next enrollment period opens. I just want to take a quick moment to talk about sponsorship. I've always said that this podcast, this endeavor is made possible by the Calling Course. What that means is It's self-funded, it's bootstrapped, but we are opening the door to sponsors to come alongside us if they're a good fit for our audience. So if you have a business, a service, or work for someone who does that would like to get in front of an audience like ours, shoot us an email at podcast@themeaningmovement.com. We can tell you more about what we have to offer by way of our audience and sponsorship opportunities, and we can take the conversation from there. Podcast@themeaningmovement.com. Thanks so much. Ed, welcome to the Meaning Movement Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So the question I always like to begin with is, how do you begin to talk about the work that you do?
Sometimes I start kind of tongue in cheek and I tell people that I get to be myself for a living. But but then when I get to dig deeper and talk about it more, really at the heart of things, I'm a writer and a teacher.
Mm,
And what I teach are the things that I've learned through my life experience. I think my life has been I don't want to say completely unique, but it certainly had a a large amount of struggle, trial, and tribulation, and I think I've done a fairly good job of not just overcoming it, but learning from it and applying the lessons as I move forward. So a lot of my writing reflects that.
I love that, and I think your story is really compelling, and want to get into that. But I think the question that I want to ask, just as a entry point, is, look, when did you first think of yourself as a writer? Was that are there roots in writing early on, or when did that piece of the identity come into focus?
Well, you know, I remember when I was in like high school that I went into high school always being interested in writing. I used to take loose leaf paper and handwrite things for people who are from that era of handwriting stuff in school,
Yes.
and I would write stories, and it was always fascinating to me. And I thought when I got to high school, maybe I want to be a writer as well. But I didn't adapt to the school education of literature. I should have, who I am now, I would have fallen in love with it. But then it didn't hit me the right way. I didn't think I was a good writer. I didn't have the confidence uh,
Yeah.
to express myself. Probably didn't have the ability either.
Mm.
But so it's not like my whole life I was like, oh, I'm a writer. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to be a writer, and then I was like, oh, I'm not good at this at all. Let me go, figure out and do other things. I mean, I'm sure that's why I ended up when I went back to school later as an adult, why I ended up going back for physics and math, because I was like, "There's no way I can touch this." Now that there's a more practical reason too. There were just more jobs when I thought that I was going to end up working for someone else. But in terms of the identity now and where that comes from, and I wanted to give a lot of backstory to show that it's not something that you are born with and you have to go run with, but I've considered myself kind of a full time guy at this thing in one way or the one shape or the other for 10 years. I
Wow.
would say the website was started right. I remember I used to send letters back when I was in basic training because I did basic. I enlisted in the army later in life too, but I would send letters back to my friends to upload to the blog for me, people I trusted. They would handwrite letters and have them go through, pick up
Wow.
the grammar and all that. So I enlisted. I went in 2013.
Yeah.
So yeah, the blog's 9 or 10 years old, but no younger and no older.
Yeah, wild. So even while you were in training, when you didn't have access to a keyboard, you couldn't upload yourself. You were long form writing out the letters and having
Yeah,
blog posts,
and
having other people load them up for you.
and here's what's cool about that. I look back in retrospect, like that's when you're in basic training, you don't have a lot of free time. In fact, you don't really have
Yeah.
any free time. You just, but you do get 30 to 45 minutes at night after you shower to
Mm,
fall asleep and everything.
yeah.
And so what I would do is I'd work on my posts that I wrote at night, or when I had to wake up and do fire guard duty for an hour. You get up at night and guard the hall and everything, and someone
Yeah.
checks it. So
Wild.
so if you want to write, you'll find a way to, and I certainly found a
Yeah.
way. And then other platforms just made the most sense to me, like trying out Twitter, and Twitter
Yeah.
has been great, and then Instagram has been great now as well for sharing some writing, and then
Yeah.
continuing to grow my website has worked out really well for me. So I
Mm.
keep I've always been interested in the written word and
Yep.
communicating clearly, making sure people are able to take what I want them to understand and get that across to them with as little loss as possible. And
Yeah.
that is accomplished through clear writing, and that's
I love it.
what I've always liked doing.
I love it. Well, I mean, already I feel like in your story, one thing that is emerging that I'm impressed by is just how much you've reinvented yourself. We haven't even gotten to your whole story yet, but you're talking about being in the military and then going to school, physics and math, and then writing. Like that, It feels like that's a gifting of yours. Do you feel like that's
Uh,
true?
I feel like am a survivor and an adapter before all
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And I say that about anything, whether it be how I make a living, how I define myself, how I even how I live my relationships. I have my goal, and I know what I'm trying to do, and I know what I'm trying to not do, and that what I'm trying to not do sets the bare minimum for or what I'll endure or what I'll suffer. But what that also does, it sets me up to always be ahead of it. Like, when we talked about a few things so far, like going to school in the military. A lot of people, when I tell that part of my story, they don't. I have to remind them I didn't do those things. I enlisted in the army when I was 28, well,
Mm.
29 because of the timing. I took the oath at 28 and shipped away at basic training at 29. So to
Yeah.
make that clear, so there's that. But and then go back to school. My first class was when I was 29, but shifted to 30 because my birthday is in February. I'm 37 now. I say all that to say, I did those things to give myself more options in life. I didn't like the options I had.
Yeah.
And so I had to look and go, well, what's the best way? Where are my skills at? What's the environment look like for me to really excel? That's why I chose physics and math, because I did
Mm.
the research, and I said, well, all the jobs that pay well
Yes.
are involved with, and I'm not a good math student. I was not. I have an article on my site about this, where I talk about how bad I was, and I like pulled up my high school transcripts and everything to demonstrate that this was not a strength of mine. It wasn't even a thing I was average. I was markedly bad at
Yeah.
math, but I did the work to improve.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's where what it comes down to for me. It comes down to always trying to be better, identifying where the problems will be, and then working to get ahead of those. And that looks
Mm.
like reinvention. And I guess in the pure sense of the word, there is an element of reinventing myself, but that's not why I do it. I do it because now what that also does is that gives me confidence to take on many things. I've always been kind of okay with languages, but during the pandemic, I really took my Spanish to a useful level. Like when you learn another
Yeah.
language, you want to say, "Oh, I'm excited, I know it," and you realize you don't know anything, and you kind of shut up. Well, the pandemic got me through the other side of that, where I'm confident in saying I know Spanish. And like if somebody starts talking to me, I'll understand and can say something back. Or like,
Yeah.
what you learn is like when you say hola and then they like ask where the bathroom is and they say something back in Spanish, you just go, yeah, see. And I
Yeah.
go, like, no, now I can program. So that
Yeah.
was fine. Or like with my chess, spending my time with chess and getting better
Mm.
at chess, because even though I'm not a natural at it, it's something I enjoy. I started
Mhm.
boxing. I mean, you should see my initial. Even now, like I'm not an overly athletic guy in the sense of coordination. I mean, I look like a guy with two left feet out there, but I put a lot of practice into it, and that gave me the
Yeah.
confidence. People, I tell people all the time, the confidence I developed from boxing is what gave me the confidence to go fight. It's not,
Mm.
you know, I mean, to go do math and do physics.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
things seem completely unrelated, but I just know that
Mm.
I can, if I can pick it up here, I can pick it up there, no issue.
Yeah, yeah. I love that, and it sounds like you just have a lot of, I don't know, grit, ability to stick with it, endure the hard
You,
things,
and
and
you have to.
determination.
Well,
Yeah.
when you come from a life like mine, or how
Mm.
I grew up, there you get kind of two lessons here. The
Yeah.
first lesson is that, you know, no one's coming to help you, no one's coming to save you, and what that
Mm.
does is that one that forces you to grow up very fast, for better
Yeah.
or worse, mostly worse in my opinion. I think people should spend as much time as they can being kids, because once you become an adult, you can't go backwards, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that comes with a lot of a lot of responsibility, not just in the terms of like paying bills, but also like for your emotions and everything. That's when we say like a child's lost their innocence.
Mm.
What we're really saying is they're no longer shielded from the harsh stuff of the world. Now, whether they've developed the systems and processes to deal with that is a totally different story, and that's why we say it's a big deal. So there's that one thing you lose, or one thing you get growing up the way I got, which is I realized there was no one coming to save me, so I had to be very realistic. But the other thing you get in that environment is you learn self sufficiency. You don't just learn how to be tough, you also learn how to take care of your life, and you don't,
Yeah.
if you don't do it for yourself, no one else will, and so you
Yeah.
have to be able to do it. You know, it's just a matter of what I wanted out of life. So
Yeah.
I've tried to make sure I get it, you know.
I love that. I love that. Well, let's just rewind a little bit for listeners and just fill in some of the gaps. So we've talked about that, just a reference to, your boxing and what you learned there. Talked about military, but let's just like kind of rewind. Like, so what was your relationship with boxing? Where did that begin? Why did it begin? Or wherever you want to kind of
Ah.
jump into I guess that your younger years and that part of your story. I'd love for you to share some of that with listeners.
So, you know, I didn't fight when I was okay. I fought when I was a kid, but it was because I had to. The
Okay.
neighborhood I was in, and you had to survive and do what you had to do. And then I ended up at a school across town, very different socioeconomic background and bracket, and I didn't fight there. I don't think I was ever. In fact, I have not been in a fist fight since I was 14, probably
Yeah.
13 or 14. It's just you know, street fight, anything of that nature. Is that, you know, one, because I wasn't in that environment most of my time anymore, and two, you know, there are legal ramifications and health ones. You never know who's doing
Yes.
what. You could easily lose your life.
Yeah.
So but I say that to say I didn't fight when I was younger. I didn't start fighting until
Yeah.
I was 22. And the reason why I started boxing is that, you know, there's this rough period. There are a lot of rough periods in my life, but this is one of them. And from 18 to 22, I had dropped out of college for the first, you know, my first try at college. I dropped out, and I was dating this girl, and I used to talk about how stupid college was. And part of it was sour grapes. Another part of it
Yeah.
was, you know, a belief I still hold to this day, which is that college is really not for most people. And
Mhm.
most, it's just, you know, but they're very, they're predatory. They understand that people feel like they need to get these stupid degrees, and I have the
Mhm.
same feeling. The difference now is that I have a physics degree. You can't, you know, say anything to me when I
Yeah.
have this opinion. Well, at the time I didn't have that degree,
Yeah.
so I would go off and talk about these rants to anyone that would listen. One of the people who happened to listen was that girl I dated, her mother, who was a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. And so one day she says to me, you know, she got fed up with this 22-year-old just ranting all the time. And she goes, well, if college is so stupid, show me what you've done with your life over the past 4 years.
Mm.
Besides, you know, show up to my house and eat my food. And then
Mhm.
she threw me out, and
Oh,
I cried a little bit of a man tear, but after that, I was like, you know, you're right. And you know, it's funny. That's like one of the first instances of my life someone gave me some real tough love, like not
Yeah.
out of anger. I mean, I'm sure it was out of a little anger and annoyance, but like real, like here's the truth. And it was somebody that and because of how I grew up, like I said earlier, I never gave myself the luxury of believing in nonsense or believing in a fairy tale. So I said, you're right. What have I done? So
Yeah.
I started looking at some stuff. I said I could go back to school, but I didn't have the money for that, and I didn't. And I was smart enough at that time to know that if it wasn't in like engineering or computer science, it wasn't worth going to school for the amount that it cost.
Yes.
Like the return on investment didn't make sense to me. I could run the numbers and see that. All right, so I got that. Said no way. And then I looked at going into the military. I ended up going into the military anyway, but I would have done active instead of National Guard, which is what I did when I finally enlisted. And I said, man, that was right when the Iraq invasion was really heating up. And I said, nah, that's not it for me. And then I looked at, this was back when YouTube was coming out. And it was, I think it was fresh new. I think our first fight was 2007. I think YouTube came online in like 2006, man, like somewhere around then. And it wasn't what it is now, which is still what it was then. It's just is a lot bigger now.
Yeah.
And there were still, some fight videos. And I said, I think I
Mm.
can do this. Let me try this out. So,
Yeah.
so I went and I found a gym. And in the first year of training, I wasn't even sure what I would do. So for the first year, and this is in retrospect, one of the best things I did, it planted a seed for me for how to make real change in your life. I
Mm.
did everything. Like 6 days a week, I was in the gym in some form or the other. Because
Yeah.
I did boxing 3 nights a week, judo the other three, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and MMA. I did it all. I even have 2 cage
Wow.
fights. So I was like, where do I took 2 cage fights, lost them both and all. But
Oh.
I had to figure out where my strengths lay. And it wasn't just what I was good at, but also what the landscape looked like for the future of the respective sports. Because I've always had the strategic mindset where I'm looking to see, where am I going to be able to do what I'm good at, right? Where am I going to
Yeah.
be strong?
Mm.
So after a year doing this, I said boxing is where I have the best chance of making or having a real advantage or impact, making an
Yeah.
impact, and how far can I go? What can I do?
Mm.
So I did that, and I stuck with it, and I had a really. I think if you want to sum my boxing career up with one kind of anecdote, is where what do they say? Opportunity is where luck meets preparation.
Okay.
There are a lot of instances in my career where if I had started 6 months too early, or 6 months early, or 6 months later, the windows would be closed.
Mm.
If I don't make certain decisions that may have seemed foolish at the time,
Yeah.
that I don't get even close to what I've done. But I'm really happy with everything I did in boxing, both as an amateur and a professional. I think I had, by the books, an outstanding, we'll say like top 5% amateur career. My
Wow.
my professional career was a bit less impressive, but still pretty good nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of every moment of it, and it really set up like, for example, I mean, I think I'm an interesting guy, and I've done a lot of interesting things. But I know one of the things that really pops out when people go looking into my story is my 12-year boxing career, and they're like, "We
Yep.
got to have this guy on the show."
That's
It
true.
continues to open up doors. And to put this in perspective, I mean, we're having this conversation right now. I have not competed professionally. It'll be 6 years this December,
Yeah.
but it continues to open up doors. And now I'm coaching guys a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
not something I think I'll do full time, because not because I don't enjoy coaching, but the opportunity cost for everything else I could do is extremely high,
Yeah.
and you're responsible for somebody else's life in a sense. Like, I
Yeah.
can't, you know, if I can't make you do what I need you to do and live the lifestyle, because that's a lot of what it comes down to. Like, I can teach you everything I've learned to know, but if you're still going out drinking, if
Mm.
you're not responsible, whatever, it's going to be very hard to turn you into what you should be or what you could be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for all of that, and it absolutely does like make you stand out from other content creators online. Like, wow, this guy was a boxer, and he's like, I don't know. There's a stereotype of boxers, like you get hit in the head enough that like like why are you in that ring to begin with, but like you're smart, you're articulate, and like, so you kind of I think also like break the mold or the stereotype of like who maybe the public or maybe it's just
Well,
me.
yeah, what
I
the
assume
public's
a boxer
perception.
is.
Well,
Yeah,
your perception is not incorrect or undeserved. I mean,
yeah,
boxing is not okay. So without giving you too much of a history lesson, because there's like a time limit and all that.
yeah, yeah,
One of the things you have to understand is that boxing is very few people's first choice, at least in America.
yeah.
Because if you have real athletic ability, you end up on the court, the gridiron, the baseball diamond, or the rink, right? If
Yep.
you're like a white guy, you're in the
Yeah.
hockey rink or lacrosse. I mean, there are all these things that have other opportunities that go along with it. Like all those sports I mentioned, forget the professional aspect where there's just a lot more money. There's the collegiate aspect. You get a real
Yeah.
education out of this.
Yes.
There's a real like structure. Boxing has
Yes.
none of this. Boxing has always been, and this is kind of the appeal. Boxing has
Yeah.
always been the gutter sport. It's a poor man's sport.
Yeah.
We don't make a lot of money. It's no one's
Mm.
real first choice.
Yeah.
But if you stick with it, there's a certain kind of romanticism that comes from it. There's a
Yeah.
certain perspective. You become a certain kind of individual because of this sport if you let it purify you.
Mm. Mm.
But
Yeah.
that's a hell of a process, man. The best metaphor I can give is boxing to improve your life is like joining the Marines to learn how to fold your sheets. Like you will learn how to fold your sheets, no doubt about it. But you're
Yeah.
gonna get a lot of other stuff that you probably don't want.
Yes.
But
And
now
there
you're
might be easier ways to learn it,
yeah,
right?
now you're married to the game. You're for better or
Yeah.
worse, and then
Yeah.
that's it is what it is. But
Yeah. So do you feel like your turn to boxing, I mean, it sounds like it was maybe to one part just like out of boredom or just looking for something to do. Was it like really like were you hoping to really make it? I mean, it's like I mean, so it's like one in a million, right? That like actually can make good money boxing. So tell me like about like what was that phase of your life? How did you think
so
about it while you were in
so,
it?
so here's how I thought when I first started. I said I just want to do something because I
Yeah.
was able to look around and see, kind of what my peers were doing. Go to work, then come back, drink, watch sports. And now I
Yeah.
drink, watch sports with work too, like anybody else. But I've always had this kind of arrogance about me where I'm like, okay, I need something to set me apart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, aside from like putting in the sweat equity into something in my life, that's how it started. Is I
Yeah.
needed something to set me apart.
Yeah.
I stick with this and for me, because I've been realistic all my life, I have no choice. I've never been able to entertain fantasy. I said, all right, the odds of making great money at this is low, but I'm poor, right? I'm from the
Yeah.
projects. And was working minimum wage or slightly over it most of my 20s. I said, yo, minimum wage works out to I think like 725. That works out to like 14, 15,000 a year. I said,
Yeah.
yo, if I can fight 6 times a year and make $3,000 or $4,000, isn't that the same?
Yeah.
I may as well be cool as hell when I do it, right?
Yeah.
So I never really thought about the money in the sense of making a bunch of it, just as making it
Yeah.
in a cool way. But also one of the big things for me was the mastery, because one of the things I realized at the tail end of my amateur career is that all of the stuff that guys tend to get drawn to for boxing, that can be taken away from you. You
Mm.
can lose the favor of the people who come to see you. You can lose your physical abilities. You
Yeah.
can lose. You can be suspended. You're not going to make any money, but the money you make, you can lose that.
Yeah.
You can lose the adoration of people if you lose. Sergio Martinez has this great quote where he's talking about how when he won the championship, he had like thousands of missed calls and all this. But when he lost it, he had one missed call, and it was from his mother.
Mm.
And that really hammers home the point. Like all of
Wow.
this stuff you can lose. I can't lose my enjoyment of mastery. I can't lose my enjoyment of the connections that I make in the sport. So it really became this something else that I would focus on. I'd focus on the
Yeah.
connections. I'd focus on the mastery of the learning, the training of my body. That's what I got out of it. Those are the
I
things I
love it.
continue to this day in different areas. But all
Yeah.
the other stuff doesn't matter. That's why when like guys ask me and they think I'm BSing when they do you miss anything? No, I miss absolutely nothing. Okay, it's not true. I miss one thing. I miss being able to eat whatever I want and not
Yeah.
have to worry. Like now I gotta like look at stuff and think about like this. But when I fought, man, I could eat I mean, I eat a
Yeah.
lot and have trouble keeping weight on. But
Totally.
other than
Because you're
that, like
burning it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't miss anything about the sport because all the things
Yeah.
I got from the sport, I get from writing.
Yeah. Wow. And so then when you decided to move on from boxing, tell me about that process and that
Hmm.
decision.
So after so in 2016, I lost a fight in September 23rd. I just remember that date. It burns forever in infamy in my
Yeah.
memory.
Mm.
And because I lost it by a knockout in the first round on TV, internationally broadcast. It was crazy,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And then I had one more fight later that year. I fought to a draw,
Mm.
and then I told my coach. I said I'm taking 2017. I'm taking it off. I'm gonna heal because I had multiple concussions that I don't think let heal, and that was showing up in other
Mm.
areas. I'm gonna focus on finishing my degree because I went to school and fought at the same time, and that was a
Mm.
very hard thing because I wasn't
Yeah.
at a degree you could just phone it in. I had to like
Yeah.
come home and really study.
Mm.
So I said I'm gonna do all this. I had to figure out, how to make money another way, which changed my life as well. But that's another story. So I did all this, and then 2018, true to form, January 2nd, I was in the gym, getting back at it, training, getting my workout in, getting my cardio and everything back up, and
Mm.
I got an offer for a fight in New Zealand of all places,
Mm.
and I was getting ready to take that fight, and I said, "This is cool. We're gonna go do it." And I went, I went against my coach's wishes, and I went and sparred this kid because that I knew because I'm a better fighter than him. He had just been fighting continuously for the past 18 months, so he was a lot sharper than I was.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we were sparring, and he lands a shot over my left eye, and it breaks the orbital underneath. And this is during sparring. I've had this injury in
Mm.
my other eye, and it was so bad I needed surgery.
Yeah.
But this one I didn't need surgery for, but I still couldn't take the fight. So after
Mm.
my coach chewed me out for doing that, he said, because he wasn't. I mean, I understand why he was so angry. Way better now than even then. And I'm not like, but he says, dude, look at what you've managed to accomplish in your life because this
Mm.
was May 2018, and May 2018 was a big deal for me because that was when I graduated with my degree physics from Duquesne University. That was also we have to take this exam in any physics major. I don't know about other majors, but it's called the major fields, and it tests your knowledge like independently. How much did you learn? It's kind of how this is why STEM fields are great because they keep themselves honest. This is how we
Yeah.
know. So we can see, okay, or is everyone learning what they learn? and
Mm.
and I went and I'm sure this was because of the tutoring I had started doing a year ago as part of like other ways to make money. I went and scored. I got the third highest score of all time for the school, and
Wow.
the highest score that year for everyone out of everyone. And this is from a guy who wasn't good at math. Remember that I
Yeah.
had to spend a lot
Yeah.
of time to learn the math. So and I was really proud of that. I shared it and everything. I was like, yeah, this is
Mm.
awesome. Because I'm only a BA. A BA that means I just took a specific track where I didn't focus on the whole gamut that all
Yeah.
BS students typically focus on. It's kind of a background here. My course at the 400 level, I took electrodynamics and mechanics and solid state physics. Other one,
Mm.
and then the other course I would have taken quantum mechanics and statistical mechanics or thermal mechanics, however you want to look at it. All right. So I didn't even have a complete knowledge for the whole major fields, but because I had went and been tutoring and studying on my own, I got a super high score. So there's that. That was the first month that I made over $10,000 from the internet. My writing, actually, I
Wow.
cracked 30. It was like 33,000 that month. And my coach was like,
Wow.
"Look at everything you're doing. You don't need to
Mm.
do this anymore." Uh,
Yeah.
and so I said to myself when I first started fighting as an amateur, I said, "There's only two reasons I'll quit. One is if I get injured and I can't recover from it, like a detached retina or something." Or if somebody I know and trust says you should probably do something else.
Mm.
And my coach is somebody I had really come to know and trust, and he said, "Dude, I'll coach you if you want to keep fighting, obviously, but you don't need to do it anymore. Like you've got so many other things going on." So that was when I officially stopped training. It's May
Mm.
2018. Now, I entertained the idea of coming back probably until I'll tell you when I stopped entertaining the idea. I was helping Roy Jones Jr. get ready for his fight against Mike Tyson. I was his sparring partner because my coach was also Roy Jones' coach, and and working for that, I said, it's great. I can have a bad day, come home, and it doesn't matter. Like when you have a bad day at practice, and when you're doing it for a living, that's a problem because it
Yeah.
stays with you, and you got to
Yeah.
come back the next day tired, beat up, bruised, and get right back in there like it was nothing. And that's cool. I think that's very character building. But I've already paid the piper, and I've got my character. I can go build it other
Yes.
ways without getting hit in the head. you know.
Yes, yes. So then after that, when you decided to stop taking fights, did you just at that point go full time? I mean, just focus on your writing and on the online stuff? Did you look for, now that you had your degree, did you look for a job in the field?
Oh,
What did that
it
look
was never.
like
It was man. I decided I wasn't going to get a job.
a long time before that?
2017. Yeah, 20
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
In fact, I remember the exact moment. I said, "Oh, I think I have something here."
yeah.
November
Well, what was that moment?
2017,
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to
Black
hear.
Friday. I
Yeah,
was doing an affiliate sale. I was helping somebody with their affiliate, and I made $8,000 in Black Friday week
yeah,
that 4 day period. I said, "Huh, this is cool." Because I used that
yeah.
money because we went to Portugal for the first time because my wife is from Portugal, and so I
Cool.
went and hung out. And while I was there, the affiliate offers I had set up on my site, I ended up breaking even because every day I ended up selling something that made back what I spent on the trip. But this was
Yeah,
automatic from my site. And I said,
cool.
I don't think I ever have to get a job.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, and
Was
like
that
it
was
just,
that the moment? It was like, was that the moment when you're like, all this stuff I've been doing is like really adding up to something?
yeah, that's when it really became clear. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And then and I had another affiliate sale in March. I think I cleared like 15K, and I was like, oh no, I didn't clear that much. It was like nine. It was a
Yeah.
decent amount, but I was
Yeah.
just like, I see how this works now.
Yeah.
You have an audience. The audience trusts you. You build something to
Yep.
satisfy audience need that they perceive you as an expert in. You have
Mm.
a pretty good shot
Mm.
at having a great life, and so that's
Yeah.
where that came from. Oh, because
I
look,
love that.
I love physics. I love learning. I love that stuff, but I'm realistic because my classmates. Okay, so you know how I said I put a lot of energy into becoming a much stronger math student. I am better at numerics and mathematical reasoning and quantitative reasoning than like 99% of the population. That 1% is other physics students that I just can't beat or
Yeah.
be better. It's not a competition. I know
Yeah.
I'm not as good at it. Now, where I excel is understanding the concepts and being able to break them down, explain them, whatever. That comes from the teacher in me.
Mm.
But to excel in grad school, you have to, or any industry that requires that knowledge, you have to really want it and want to be there. And
Yeah.
so I know I'm not going to go do that now. If Ed Latimore was to go and get employed by someone, I'd probably take the skills I have now and use them. I mean, I've learned so much about search engine optimization
Yeah.
and writing sells in a way that hits both, that I
Mm.
think that I have, any I've actually had offers. I'm not
Yeah.
interested in them.
Yeah.
Any company would be happy to have me. I
Totally.
think so.
Yeah.
But right now, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
so fortunate and so blessed to have the mind capable of figuring this stuff out, and then also having
Love
the
it.
story to kind of throw behind it and the work ethic to do something with it. I
Mm.
never take for granted that's luck in the purest sense of the word, and I had no control over a lot of that. My parents came together, and the genes they gave me kind of worked out in that way.
Yeah, yeah, but you put in the time and you've taken what what you were given and you've done some amazing things with it. How do you think about purpose, meaning, impact, legacy, whatever words you use to think about what you're trying to do with your work? What's the yeah, the story that you want your work to tell when you kind of zoom out to the 1,000-foot level?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a big believer in negativa, in that you can go really far if you kind of have a few things you won't do or that you're trying to avoid.
Mm,
So one of the things I try to avoid is division and negativity. I would
mm,
like the world, or as I say, make the world a better place while you're here. But if you can't do that, at least don't mess anything up.
yeah.
Okay, like if people just took that approach and used it on everything, they'd be good. Like that's the approach I used when I met my wife. I said, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I don't know if I can improve this girl's life, and just when we just met, but I'm not gonna mess it up.
Yes,
And
yes.
that led to me making certain changes that ultimately ended up, making us
Mm,
a great match. I think so.
yeah.
That's the first step. What my work is, don't mess anything up. And then the next thing is like, wherever you're strongest, there's a way to improve the world.
Yeah.
For example, I used to have a real big complex about this because I thought that I would be able to make a real big difference quantitatively.
Mm,
Like I should be smart enough, or I feel like I'm smart enough to really make a difference in the world. About like discovering something or building something, things of that nature. But now I know that my real strength, I have an audience, like, and I'm good at building that audience and nurturing it, and it
mm,
continues to grow. That means I have a voice. That is really powerful, and you can do a lot with that. So I try
yeah.
to do something good with it. I try to
Mm,
make sure I put out useful pieces of information, things to make people think, things to make people um, reflect on their choices and all that. And
yeah.
so, and because of that, I'm also very responsible with what I say. So it's made me a better person, and then in turn, it makes the rest of the world better by following me and being interested in what I have to say.
Mm,
So that's really my legacy. I'd like people to, or what I'm trying to accomplish,
yeah.
is I would like to be a net positive on the world in some function,
I love it.
and that means not being negative, or if I do cause some negativity, make sure it's in the pursuit of something that will uh, balance that out in a positive, or exceed it slightly at least.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm curious for people who are listening, hearing your story, hearing you've overcome so much. A lot of people are in a place where they're up against something that where they feel stuck in some way. Maybe they're in a job that they don't like, a career they don't like, or just they're trying to figure out like what's their thing. And we're curious if you have any just words of wisdom from your own experience that you'd like to share, just kind of speak straight to the audience, to people who are in that kind of trying to figure it out space.
Uh, you know, you have to remember a few things. One, you're gonna die one day.
Mm,
I think, and you know what's crazy? I was reading this thing where this guy said, well, if you want to be technical about it, considering the average life expectancy, middle age is closer to your mid 30s, early 40s,
yeah,
not like your 50s. And I was like,
yeah,
that's
it's
a really
wild.
good point. So by the numbers, I'm about halfway done with my time on this planet. Now, I
Yeah,
personally think with my lifestyle and medicine, I'm going to be a very healthy 90 to 100 years old when I die. But that's
yeah,
neither here nor there. The
yeah,
point is that we're going to die one day, and so you have to start making choices to
Mm.
maximize your time on this planet.
Mm.
Because whether you succeed or fail, you still going to die, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you probably should, you know, since that part is a wash, right? That no matter what, you won't live forever. Well, let's
Yeah.
maximize our time here, and
Yeah.
that may mean enduring a bit of short term discomfort,
Yeah.
but ultimately, it allows you to pursue meaning, and then also, you know, meaning I think is directly related to overcoming challenge, which means facing challenge, which means
Mm.
challenge, hardship, difficulty, all synonymous.
Yeah.
That means that you have to go and do hard stuff that you don't
Yeah.
like, stuff
I
that
love that.
might seem painful initially, but you have to do it. You know,
Mm.
but I felt trapped at one point in my life. I was working. It was right before I enlisted and went to the army. Well, you see how that changed, right? But I
Mhm.
felt trapped. I was working at T-Mobile. I was selling cell phones for $9.28 an hour, and I didn't have. I had so little money. A buddy was letting me stay at his house for $200 a month, which was cheap, but it was enough that I could afford. And I was, you know, drinking a lot too. And I said I feel trapped and stuck. So I said, how can I get out of this? And
Mm.
that meant doing some, you know, that meant enlisting, that meant returning to school. Because that was the perspective I thought it was going to help me get a job. It just so happened, you know, I wasn't pursuing a job, but it generated enough positive externalities to where I was like, oh wow, look at this. So
Mm.
when you're trapped, you know, you look at what will untrap you, and you do it, and you figure
Yeah.
out, you know, that difficulty, you'll manage it, you know,
Mm.
you'll figure it
Mm.
out. And worst case, if you don't, you'll die. Like that's why I brought that up first. Like it
Yeah.
really doesn't
Mhm.
like matter. And when you look at it that way, then you go,
Yeah.
whoa, since I'm gonna die anyway, I gotta make sure I get something out of this rock. Because it doesn't take
Yeah.
long to change. I
Mm.
mean, it was just what I always say my second birthday is December 23rd, 2013, because that's when I stopped drinking.
Mhm.
And that's when I was broke. That's when I was living at my friend's house. That's all that, right? Uh
Yeah.
so it'll be 8 years or 9 years this year. I'm not sure. What are we,
Yeah,
2022?
9 I think it'll be 9.
It'll be
Yeah.
9 years this year. You know, but the real change when it really happened, and I probably could have did it faster if I took a different path.
Mhm.
This when I graduated from school at 33. So 33, that was 2018. So 5 years of change.
Yeah.
Not even four and a half.
Yeah.
4.5 years. So if you go and buckle down, what is 4 years? Four
Yeah.
years, and you could do it even faster if you take a different path. I just happen to have a path that was, you know, kind of dictated by forces outside of me in terms of how long it takes to graduate and
Yeah.
fighting and stuff like that. But that little bit of suffering, we buck long term happiness because we want to avoid short term suffering.
Mm, that's
You
so
know?
good. That's good. So good. I just hearing that, just how important it is just to take action, even if you don't know. Like sometimes I think we get so caught up trying to find the perfect action that we don't take
Yeah,
action at all. And what I hear from you, what you're saying is like, just go, start, like take some good steps, and then
yeah,
those are going to open doors, and that's going to take you where you need to go.
yeah. It is the best way to describe it is like this. You know what happens if you stay. Then
Mm,
actually,
yeah,
I'll just tell you this story. I always use this kind of this scene from the Matrix to illustrate exactly how I thought. In the first Matrix movie, when they're taking Neo to meet Morpheus,
yeah,
he's in the back of the car and they take that bug out of his stomach and he goes, "Oh, that
yeah,
thing's for real," or whatever. And he's about to take off running, right? And Trinity is like, you don't want to do that, Neo. And he goes, "Why?" And the direction is beautiful because it pans down this dark alley and it says, "Because you've been down that road before, Neo, and you know where it goes, and you know you don't want to be there." All right.
mm,
And he hadn't actually been down that road.
yeah,
He just knew that going
yes,
out, leaving the car would take him back where he was, and he was dissatisfied where he was.
yes,
Okay. That is
mm,
the idea here. If
I
you
love it.
know where you're at is already kind of garbage, and you're not
Totally.
happy, and you're suffering. Well, you know what happens if you stay. It's not going to
Yes.
magically, spontaneously improve. It never does.
Mm.
And no outside force is going to come rescue you. That never happens. So you
Mm.
have to go and be like, all right, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do? It's going to
Mm.
be something good for myself.
I love that. There's some deep truth there. Thank you. Thank you for that. And really, yeah, really appreciate it. I know we're up on our time here, but just want to say thank you so much for just sharing your story for both here on the show as well as just putting it out in the world and your writing. It's an inspiration. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing with me today. For folks who want to connect with you, follow along with what you're doing, is there anything that you'd like to invite them to?
Yeah, I'm Ed Latimore everywhere, man. So check me out on social media. Twitter and Instagram are the two big ones I'm on. Ed Latimore is my handle there. If you want to go to YouTube and type in Ed Latimore, my channel should come up. I'm not as active there, but I have these spurts. My website is edlatimore.com.
I
Come and
love it.
check me out there. And sign up for the newsletter while you're there. That'd be awesome. Love to have you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ed. It's been really great.
Hey, thank you. You have a good one.
Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing so much of your journey with us. And thank you, dear listeners and viewers, for watching and listening along. If you are not yet aware, this podcast is not only going into podcast catchers all over the world, all over the internet, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all of it. It's also going on YouTube, so you can watch, not just listen to this show. You can find that at youtube.com/The Meaning Movement, The Meaning Movement with no spaces, just youtube.com/The Meaning Movement. Wherever you're listening or watching, I want to invite you to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified when new episodes are released. And one more thing before we go, if you have not left a rating or review wherever you're watching or listening, please do so. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you're on Spotify or Amazon or Apple or any other podcast catcher, it's such a hard word to say, that allows reviews, please take a moment to do so. It is how people like you find this show, and it means the world to me. Thank you in advance so much. Our music is by Tom Roram. Our artwork is by Eleazar Ruiz. I will be back with you in just a couple days.